everything I said there. Do people need to see it prettier? To show that one prettier, I would go 3t squared square root 6t squared over 4. I would take out the t squared, so I'm left with 3t cubed root 6 over 4. I would simplify that. 3t cubed root 3 over 2, which is technically 3t cubed root 3 over root 2. Then you would multiply by root 2 to rationalize the denominator and get, when your computer thaws, 3t cubed root 6 over 2. 3t cubed root 6 over 2. And then the next question anyone asked about was 4D, which is my good friend Leighton Vererger.
How do you actually pronounce your last name?
Verheren.
What?
Yeah,
See?
See,
It's because it's Filipino.
You didn't
One more
know
time.
that?
I thought it was French.
Okay, cool. That's neat.
You didn't know that?
His mom could be Filipino and his dad is
You
French.
actually
and
think he was French?
Filipino is a very dominant.
Well, no, but to be fair, there was a massive French presence in Indochina, which is why there's plenty of French in Vietnam and Laos and Kampuchea. No, Kampuchea. More familiarly known as Cambodia.
I like cappuccino.
So, Leighton, what's that square mean? Everything is squared. So really what you're doing is 6 cube root 2 minus 4 root 13. And then you're doing FOIL. So what I will do is I will take this, 6 cube root 2 minus 4 root 13. I'll get us a nice clean page. Cheese and crackers. Yes, it's a mess. It's covered in cheese and crackers. It's all crummy. 6 cube root 2 minus 4 root 13 times 6 cube root 2 minus 4 root 13. Then, of course, you would do FOIL. 6 cube root 2 times 6 cube root 2 is 36 cube root 4 minus 24. Now, this is where it gets weird, because can I put that and that together? No. So just as if it was x and y, you would write cube root 2 root 13. Then you would do it again, minus 24 cube root 2 root 13 plus 4 times 4 is 16, 13 times 13 is 13, 16 times 13 is 160, and 48 is 208. So it would be 36 cube root 4 minus 48 cube root 2 root 13 plus 208. And that should be the answer in the answers. Is it? They may have simplified something further that I do not see at first glance. That's the answer. There you go. Oh, Leighton, you're high maintenance today. What now? 6D. 60?
6D.
I know you said 6D, but my friend who's British makes fun of Canadians because we don't say the letter T.
6D.
He says when we say
I see 6D.
bottle, we say bottle with 2 Ds. And he says we don't say water, we say water. According to my British friend. Alright, so 6D. Alright, first of all, you need to be aware of what that means. You should already know. If m is lower than 0, that makes it negative. When you cube a negative, you still have a negative number, and then you cannot get a square root of a negative number. So m has to be bigger than 0. That's just there for that reason. That will come up a great deal in grade 11. It is not as big a deal right now, okay? Because we are not solving this, are we? You're not giving me a value for m. You are simplifying, yeah? All right, there's lots of ways you can go about simplifying this. You could simplify right now, or you could do bit by bit. Numbers go with numbers. What's 3 divided by 1? 3. Root. What's 135 divided by 21? Does it work? Does 21 go into 135? No, but does something go into both of them? 7, right? So isn't that the square root of 135 m to the 5th over 21 m to the 3rd? And then could you not simplify that? 7 goes into 135 once. No, it doesn't, does it?
No, it doesn't.
3 goes into it. 3 goes into that 4 times 45. And 3 goes into that 7, right?
Yeah.
So that's 45 over 7. M5 over M3 means M squared up top, yes?
Yeah.
So that is technically 3 root 45M squared, right? So is that M squared coming out?
Yeah.
Yep, so it's 3M root 45 over root 7, yes? Now what? Root 7's not allowed, so I multiply both sides by root 7. Now, 7 times 45 is a big number, yeah? So shouldn't I have simplified 45 first?
Sure.
That's what I would have done, so that's 9 times 5, right?
Yeah.
So what's coming out? 3. There's already 3 out there, so that's going to be 9m root 5, right?
Yeah.
Now, root 7, 9m root 35 over 7.
Yeah.
And that should be the answer.
Did it.
Magic. Abracadabra.
Also for 11, can you explain what identify the values of the variables for which each fraction is a real number? I didn't get that.
Well, that's exactly what I was talking about right here.
Oh.
For this to be a real number, which we have talked about, nothing down there can be 0, can it? So the root of 6, r, plus 9, cannot equal 0, yes? Oh, but first it says simplify it.
Yeah. I didn't see.
So first you'd simplify it, and then you would check that, make sure the denominator didn't equal 0. So what can you simplify there?
You can rationalize.
You could rationalize the denominator first. Okay. Then what? So if you're going to rationalize this denominator, what would you multiply by? Root 6 r minus 9. Root 6 r minus 9. And then on the bottom, you'd have root 6 times root 6 is 6. R times r is r squared. So you'd have 6r squared minus 81, yeah?
Yeah.
And up top, you'd have 4 root 6 r squared minus 36r, right? And then you would start simplifying. But for that, the first thing you got to do, you can't have a 0 there, you can't have a 0 there. All your denominators can't be 0. That's what you're trying to do there. And then here, we would try and simplify this out,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So r's are gone. R squared and r squared are gone, right? 4 and 6 simplify to 2. 2/3, right?
Yeah.
So 6 is gone. And actually, that's not what I would do. Sorry. Looking at it now, it would be 4 root 6 r squared minus 36r over 6r squared minus 81. I would factor those first.
Okay.
I would GCF up top, right? Because we've done our factoring, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would, have we done factoring?
No.
What?
It's an
Didn't? We did GCF factoring.
oh yeah.
Yeah. So I would GCF that out can come a 4r, and that would leave in there root 6r minus 9, right? Over, and on the bottom there, I could get out a 3, and that would leave 2r squared minus 27. And then you would go on doing stuff like that. I haven't looked at the answer, so I don't know what they want. But that is essentially what they're doing. And I feel that I probably should not have put that there, because to really finish that, you need to have done factoring. And all of you did that in grade 9, but did you do enough of it? I'm trying to remember how much factoring we did in the 9th grade. And I don't know if I gave you enough math tools yet to do that fully. So I'm a little worried. And I feel bad about myself. But if that's the only thing you couldn't do, then I'm not too worried, because you'll be able to do it in a minute. Lauren?
Couldn't you put 9 and 27 into each other?
No, you can't, because that only works in multiplying. And that's something that you guys, not you guys, but kids in general, a great many of you have a lot of trouble understanding why that is done. Because a great many of you want to simplify there, but you cannot.
Okay, yeah.
Because what this really is saying is it's x over x plus 4 plus 2 over x plus 4. So that's why you can't simplify it that way. Okay, so if you got up to 11, you're really quite far along. Was everybody okay with everything up to 11 on page 1?
Yeah.
Okay. So if it was only 11 that screwed you up, I'm going to take the fall for that, because I did some moving around of stuff, and I think I moved stuff here that you weren't quite ready for. But we'll see. Yeah, I did. Okay. So let us move on to what for you guys should be 138, right?
Yeah.
Now, I cannot remember if we discussed this at all in the 9th grade, ever. So this might be totally new to every single one of you, in which case you want to be paying pretty close attention. This is one of the times that we are going to use experimentation to find the answer. This right here, it's hard to make a computer show this, but what this really is, I'm going to write it over here, is 9, son of a motherless goat.
Mother of goats, so my mom, get it? Is that what
138.
138, this should be. My man Leighton has it up, Blake's got it up, so it must be 138. What that is 9 with an exponent of 1/2. Now, what do exponents mean? You're going to multiply it by that many times, yes? So, does it make any degree of sense to say you're going to do 9 times 9 half a time? It makes no sense, right? Just like negative exponents made no sense, yes? Right? Okay. So we are going to use experimentation to solve this problem. What would you do with your calculator if I asked you to tell me this value? What buttons would you push in blue? You would push 9. Yes, Lauren?
9, and then you click the,
Whatever your exponent button is, and then 4. Excellent. So what are you going to do when it's 9 to the 1/2? You're going to push 9, exponent button, and because we can do 1/2 in our head, let's just say 0.5. And then you're going to push equals. And what are you going to get? 3. Interesting. Now, Do 27. Now, 1/3 is 0.33333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333333 27 exponent button bracket 1 divided by 3 bracket equals. And tell me what you get. Oh my good gravy, 3. Now, you're going to do 625. No. 625 exponent bracket 1 divided by 4. And what are you going to get? 5. Now, what do you know about a relationship between 9, 3, and an exponent that has a 2 in it? Square root of 9 is 3, right? Okay. What do you know about 27, 3, and an exponent with a 3 in it? It's cube root. Great. Which tells you what about 625, 5, and 4? It's the fourth root of 625, right? This we know that Mr. Myers' computer stinks. We know that 3 squared equals 9, and we know that the square root of 9 equals 3. Correct? We know that 3 cubed equals 27, and we know the cubed root of 27 equals 3. And we know, that should have been black, so I kept with my color scheme, piece of garbage. We know that 5 to the 4th is 625, and we know the 4th root of 625 is 5. So, look closely. What number should be right there? A 2. What number should be right? Or not should be. What number is right there? 3. What number is right there? 4. Excellent. Now look closely. What number should be there? 1. What number should be there? 1. What number should be there? 1. Notice 1, 2, 9, 3. How does it work?
The square root of 9 to the power 1.
The denominator becomes the index. The numerator becomes the power. The base becomes the radicand. Gots it? Everybody gots it? So I don't know if yours printed as poorly as mine did, with the ABC looking like that. Did it? Of course it did. Garbage. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to erase that B, and I'm going to cram it in right here. It was 27 to the 4/3, yes?
Why don't you cram it in over on the other side of the C?
Yeah, all right. That's cool. You guys are smart enough to figure it out. So, what do you see here? You see a base of what? 0.04. Now, 0.04 as a base is also 4 over 100, correct? It's disappearing because there's that painted over 24 there. So this is also 4 over 100, correct? Now, the denominator becomes what? The index. The numerator becomes what? The power. What is the square root of 4 100ths?
2 over 10.
2 over 10 to the third power becomes 8 over 1,000. which is 0.008. Everybody see? Now, if you were to punch that into your calculator, which would be 0.04 exponent button bracket 3 divided by 2 equals, you would get 0.008. Okay? Everybody with me? All right. Now, as always, can you forget your other rules in math? No. So even though this bothers somebody in the back room who said, but then you're going to have ACB, I am indeed going to do so anyway. I'm going to go over here and work on B next. I know. Everybody stay cool. Take a breath. Get some distance from it so you can work with it. Okay. The denominator becomes what? Index. The base becomes what? Radicand. The numerator becomes what? The power. What is the cubed root of 27? 3 to the 4th power, which is what?
81.
3 times 3 times 3 times 3, which is 81. Everybody with me? Great. What's happening with actual C here? What's happening right there? Lauren? 2 exponents. Doesn't matter that one's a fraction. What do we do over exponent? Over brackets. Multiply. Now this, for some reason, causes a great deal of problems. If this finger is worth 1/3 and I multiply it by 2, 2/3. I don't know why, but that causes much grief and consternation amongst a great many of your peers. So this is really 8 to the 2/3. And we know the denominator becomes the index. The base becomes the radicand. And the numerator becomes the power. What is the cube root of 8? 2 squared. 2 squared is 4. And we are done diddly-un.
Gotcha.
That's it. So if it works out, you know how to handle it. So let's check the next one. Is that one going to work out? What is this really? Because I'm not letting you use your calculators anymore. That's really 49 over 100 to the 1/2. So it is root 49 of 100 to the 1. What's the square root of 49?
7 over 10.
Square root of 100, 10, 7/10, or 0.7. Yeah? Yeah. Look at E and tell me what's different. Are decimals rational? Which means, do they manifest as fractions if we so wish? What would that be if it were a fraction? Lauren? 16 to the 3 over 2. Some of you said 1 and 1/2. Is that okay? Sure, but it doesn't follow our nice little pattern that worked out for us, did it? Does this one? Yeah. What's this? What does the 2 become?
The 2 becomes the index.
Index. What's the 16 become? Radicand. What's the 3 become? Power. What's square root of 16? 4 to the 3rd power. 64.
Oh, this is, oh my goodness. I understand.
Oh, you must have a great math teacher. No, but that's okay. What's that?
75 over 100.
75 over 100? Sure, let's do 75 over 100, Amshaman. 75 over 100. So now I need the 100th root of 81. Oh, crap. 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. There's not 100. I don't know what to do. So what is it really? 81 to the 3/4. 4th root of 81 cubed. 4th root of 81. I don't know that in my head, Mr. Myers. Good thing I taught you how to break down fractions. It's 3 times 3 times 3 times 3, right? So you know that's 3 cubed, which is what?
27.
27. Can everybody do the ones that work out perfectly? Excellent. You guys are aware of the fact that numbers, there's a lot of them. And not every number is going to work out perfectly. Here are two examples. That's exactly correct. It's like you've been down this road with me before. Sam? Of course you can, Sam.
Actually, go to
What? Sam has to go, so all of a sudden you have to go?
No, I just need to go now.
So, we already know that this is the 5th root of 8 squared. Right? That is what we call exponential form. That is what we call radical form. And then the question says, I need a calculator. Why do I need a calculator? Does 8 have a 5th root? No. The biggest root 8 has is a 3rd root. So I cannot do this one. So the best I can do is get an estimate from my calculator. And how will I punch that into my calculator? The same way we already have. 8 exponent bracket 2 divided by 5. Unless you're really good at making decimals and you know that that's 0.4. Then you could punch in 0.4. You don't need to do 2 divided by 5. Picking up what I am putting down. Excellent. So, what are you going to punch in here? Is there a 7th root of 0.6? No. Probably not. So we go to our calculators. 0.6. 0.6. Exponent button, bracket. 15 divided by 7. Most of you can't convert that to a decimal in your head. I barely can, so I'm going to do 15 divided by 7 close brackets. Everybody make sure you can get the right answers. I will know them when I hear them, because I'm not going to punch them in, because I'm too lazy. So what are they? What's the first one? 8 to the 2/5 is what? 2.3?
Yeah.
Does that make sense? 2/5 is pretty darn close to 1/2, isn't it?
Yeah.
Which would be the square root of 8, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Which is pretty close to around that, yeah? Okay, what about this one? It's a real weird number. Yeah, it doesn't really matter. It's a crazy decimal, right? 0.03 blah, blah, blah. Right? Just a 3? 0.3 blah, 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 blah. Blah, 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 blah. I do not say blah, 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 blah. My kids have been watching Hotel Transylvania lately, so. As you all know, when your kids are watching something, that pretty much means you're watching something. That's a joke from the movie Pulp Fiction. If you haven't seen that movie, do not see it. It's rated R.
You already know the answer to that question.
But in that movie, one of the characters says, I don't eat a lot of hamburgers anymore because my girlfriend's a vegetarian, so that pretty much makes me a vegetarian. There's a whole thing about hamburgers in that movie.
Do you know that vegans can drink breast milk because you can receive consent from the giver?
I don't care.
I read that on BuzzFeed and I thought it was kind of cool.
I don't care.
Huh? What if they got the cow to like not?
I do not care. Technically, that would mean that if you walked up to a lactating cow and got in line with the calves, the cow is giving plenty of permission to have her milk taken from her udder by suckling animals.
I really don't want to have this conversation.
The point is, do what you will. I am not going to waste time on this because this is just filling in a formula. It is all calculator work. How would you punch that into your calculator? Exactly what we just did. And after you did the mass, which is 27, you would multiply that answer by 0.01. Okay? I do not want to get into it. It does not need speech for you people. All right? But what I could do is I could say, where does that go? That's the mass, so it goes in for m. For some strange reason, a lot of people have a lot of trouble with filling in formulas. I don't know why. All right? So we know that is, we could even do the first one in our heads. 0.1, 27 to the 2/3, yes? Which is 0.01 times the cube root of 27 squared, yes? Which would be 0.01 times 9, because the cube root of 27 is 3, 3 squared is 9. 0.01 times 9 is 0.9. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, yeah? Done it in our heads. Could we do 200 in our heads? Yes or no?
I did 0.01 times 9 and I got 0.09.
Oh, right. Two decimal places. Dummy head, Myers. Sorry. Needed 2 decimal places. It's Monday morning, except it's Tuesday afternoon. Can we do 200 in our heads? Yes or no? No. Why?
It's too big.
No. Wrong answer.
Too many digits.
No. Wrong answer. Why can't you do 200 in your heads?
Work well.
Because 200 doesn't have what?
A cube.
A cube root. So you'd have to use your calculator. Can you do 60 in your head?
No.
Why not?
No, a cube root.
60 doesn't have a cube root. Could I do 64 in my head?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it doesn't.
Because 64 has a cube root. Sarah, you're on fire. Careful, Lauren, you might get burned. See, she doesn't laugh at my jokes. That's how I knew the hyperbole one was funny. Is it pride or is it sympathy? That's hurtful, Lauren. I'm taking all my jokes back from you, Lauren.
Used to it. You just sort of know.
You can't have any of my jokes. So now, even if I say something that's funny, you don't get to laugh because I'm taking it back from you. You can do jazz hands all you want, though. I like that. It's like applauding at the deaf shows because you can't applaud because deaf people can't hear. You do jazz hands.
Deaf people can't hear. Wow.
Huh? What? I know. I've never really understood why we do that instead of that for.
It's more like it's like woohoo! Like you can hear like when this is what it's saying or like.
Okay.
I feel like people when they actually smile. Or like nobody smiles when they clap.
You feel that when you do jazz hands, you have no choice but to smile?
I feel like people like actually happy because they're like woo!
Oh my gosh, actually that comment is true.
Fair enough. All right. I have no doubt in my mind that you can handle page 140.
We sure can, Mr. Myers.
So because of my lack of doubt, in case you care about the font, it's Thunderstrike.
That was like Fast and Furious.
Kind of edgy, man.
So flip up to page 142. Because these 2 pages put everything together. Please notice the key words.
Without a calculator.
So, a great many of you have already lost slight bladder control due to the fact that I'm taking away your safety blanket.
May I actually go to the washroom, though, please? I actually need to go.
This wasn't planned, internet world. Apparently he really needs to go, even though we have just discussed a slight loss of bladder control.
He's been talking about it for like the past half an hour.
I know.
Okay.
I know.
Can I go there?
Yes.
No.
Make good choices,
you-
Schumann.
It's
Don't
not
fall
Wait,
in.
what
Straight
does
from
that
the
mean?
path.
What does that
Don't
mean? Make
fall
good choices. That's
Follow
not
the
what-
yellow
Ow.
line.
Follow the yellow paper.
I can do that, Skip.
Well, it depends on what your goal is.
All right. This is ugly. Why?
Me looking in the mirror.
I don't know how to do them in their minors.
They use a star.
But you do. Because that's 3/10. No, I wouldn't even do that yet. What do you notice about... Thank you, Leighton, because my computer's frozen, so I can't actually discuss it. They both have the same base. So what do we do with the exponents?
We
Add them to get what?
2.
So you would get 0.3 squared. Now a great many of you still complain when I ask you to do work and you don't know how to do it. And then you do a test and you don't get the mark you want on it, and then you still complain. Even though everything you will ever be tested upon has been shown to you on here if you just choose to watch this instead of talk to each other. A great many of you still cannot do this in your heads because you are so scared of fractions you refuse to use them even though they make your life easier. 0.3 is 3/10. 3/10 squared is 3 squared over 10 squared, which is 9 over 100, which is 0.09. A great many of you will forget that second decimal place because you will forget that you are actually multiplying, you are squaring tenths. Okay? Excellent. Now, number 2, Amshuman's back, but number 2 is still very scary looking because it's got fractions until you look closely and notice what? They're the same base. So isn't this question the same as x to the -4 squared and x to the 2 cubed? So if I gave you that, you would just follow your exponent law. So you're going to do the same thing here. That's going to be -3/2 to the what? -8 times -3/2 to the what? 6. What do you do with them? Add them to get -3/2 to the -2. Are negative exponents allowed? No. What do they do to fractions? Flip them. Does it change this? No. Does it change this? Yes. So now it's just 2 times 2, 4, 3 times 3, 9. Is it negative? No, of course not, because the negative was part of the base. Everybody good? All done without a calculator in our heads where math should be done. Look at 3. Tell me why it's yucky looking. It looks yucky, but is it? Of course not. Why? Because it's all the same base.
It's pretty basic.
So it's 1.4 to the 7th. Yes?
Yeah.
Now, is that simplified? Am I happy with that?
Yeah. No, but is that a 5 or is that a...
It's a negative.
I'm happy with
But I
that.
thought it's a 7 minus the...
Oh yeah, shouldn't that
It
be
should be
9?
9.
Should be 9.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's why it's tricky.
Wait, why is it 9?
Because
7 minus 2.
7 minus minus 2.
Because you bring it correct.
Oh, yeah.
All right. What about that one?
It's all the same base. So just keep
All the same base. So what are you doing on the bottom?
you out of...
Again, causes trouble. What is 1/3 and 5/3?
2.
6/3. Leave it as 6/3. All of you get so, oh my gosh, I have to simplify everywhere, I have to simplify. You're not done. Because 2/3 minus 2 would be a pain. But 2/3 minus 6/3 is easy. What's that?
Negative 4/3.
7 to the negative 4/3, right? Is that negative allowed? No. So it's 1 over 7 to the 4/3. What form is that?
That's what we just did. So that's cube root of 7 to the power 4.
Oh, but then there's a radical.
That is exponential form. So is it done?
No. Whoa. Is that trick
Well,
question?
you can turn it into a radical, but then do a radical.
Is it done or isn't it?
It's it's not done. It is done. It's up to you. What? I don't know.
Okay, if we were earlier in this unit,
This
it
is
was
the.
done. But now it's not done
It's because we know more, so that means we gotta change it because we know more because we're smart kids.
So it's done if you want exponential form. But could you go further?
Yes.
Now we could take this to 1/3 root of 7 to the 4th power. Is it done?
No.
Radical form. Can I leave it like that? No, that 4 got ugly.
It's in the denominator.
You probably still mark it right, isn't it?
Of course I'd still mark it right. For you guys. But technically, is that allowed? No. We should get rid of that. Right? So for you guys, radical form, I'm happy. But next year, what does this have to happen to this? You've got to rationalize. Now that's crazy hard. Because it's a cube root to the 4th power. Right? Yeah? Yucky. If it was just cube root 7, we'd multiply it by cube root 7 squared, right? And it would fix itself up. Yeah?
What do you do in this case?
I'm going to show you. This is yucky, yeah? So what we're looking for on the bottom is an exponent of 1, yes? So if I go back to here, it makes it much easier, yes? Because what would I have to multiply by here to get an exponent that works? I can't get an exponent of 1, can I? 'Cause I'm already bigger than 1. I could get 2, right? So if I could get this to 6/3, would I be in business? Didn't I have that right there? Didn't I? So isn't this 7 to the 2/3 over 7 squared, yes? Right? So if I was going to rationalize here at the end, couldn't I go back to here? What would I have to multiply by to get rid of this? If I multiply it by the square root of 7, or if I multiply it by 7 squared up here, then what will I get? I would get 7. I'm going to add those, right? 7 to the 8/3 over 7 to the 4th, right? I'll come back to you. Right? It just gets ugly and crazy, doesn't it?
Gross.
It is gross. But it's all stuff that eventually you will have to do. When you've got to rationalize these, I like to go back to here. Because if I multiplied this by... How do I want to erase? What do I want to erase? You guys don't need to write this down, so don't. I just want to show you. Because I know that's going to be a radical, yes? If I multiply this by 7 to the 2/3 over 7 to the 2/3, I'm going to get 7 to the 2/3 over 7 to the 6/3, yes? Where does that take me back to? 7 to the 2/3 over 7 squared, which is already rationalized right there, isn't it? That's where I'm trying to go with this. When you get to there, you are rationalized. So what would it look like in radical form? 3 root 7 squared over 49. But that's what we had right there. Because right there is rational. Everybody good? But remember, I don't care about all that. Not at your level. And since I will not be teaching you past this level, will I ever care about it? No. What about here?
Add them up. You can go.
Whoa.
Oh, but there's a negative.
No, that's not what I'm worried about here. That can only go with what?
The X.
The X.
Oh, but because it can't go with both. Oh, negative.
Ah, so what is this really?
So you have to go the X of 5.
And Y?
Y negative 12.
Wow.
Negative 2.
Sorry, my bad. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Yeah.
Really?
No.
No, it's not okay.
Negative.
What? I don't know what I'm saying.
Why is it negative?
It should be x5.
2 minus 4.
X5 y2
Over.
over y2.
Can I go any further with that?
No.
Why not?
You don't know the.
I don't know the bases. What about 6?
And
What goes with what?
10 and 5.
10 and 5 go together to get me what? 2. What about A's?
Yeah. A 2.
A squared. What about B's?
B to the 5th.
B to the 5th.
Yeah.
Am I okay there?
Yeah.
So I'm done because everything's positive. 7. Scary?
No.
No. Why? Same base. What do you do there?
Multiply.
1.5 to the 15th over 1.5 to the 5. Then what?
Subtract.
1.5 to the 10. Simplified. Don't want it evaluated. Only want it simplified. If this were squared, what would you do?
Multiply.
The 2 would distribute in, yes?
Yeah.
Okay. So since it's 1/3, what does the 1/3 do?
2.
Distributes in. Does the 8 get it?
Yeah.
Of course it does. So that becomes 8 to the what?
1
1/3, which is what? 2. What? Sure it is. Because that's the cubed root of 8 to the first power, right? 2. What happens with A?
Multiply.
What's 3 times 1/3?
1.
A.
Yeah.
Because 3 times 1/3 is 3/3. 3/3 is 1. What's B?
2.
B squared. Why?
Because 6 over 3 is
2 times 1/3 is 6 times 1/3 is 6/3, which is 2. Everybody good? Okay, what happens in 9? Barf.
Same thing. 4 goes into 2.
4 and 2 gets me what? 2. A and A gets me what?
Negative.
negative 4.
And B?
1.
The 1 over 3.
Is that okay?
No.
No. Fix it.
2b 1 over 3 over
Is that okay?
Yeah.
What if I ask for radical form? Is that okay?
No.
What is it in radical form?
2 cube root b
Of b.
power of 1.
We don't write 1.
Well, yeah,
Tell me the 2 ways you could do number 10. There's supposed to be an A there.
Where?
What are the 2 ways you could do 10?
We could distribute 1 to everything.
You could distribute the half to everything.
Yeah.
Is that ugly? I find it to be a little ugly. What is your other option?
You can also simplify in the bracket.
Simplify inside the brackets. What's 100 divided by 25?
4.
4. A divided by A to the 5th.
A negative 4.
Over what?
B.
Is that simplified? Where does B to the negative half go?
Up.
up, because to simplify it, you don't want any negatives. And now you've gotten rid of your denominator. Oh, happy day. What's all that to?
Wait, there's still a negative.
I'm getting to it. Thanks. Why did I not move that 4? Because it brings me back to a denominator situation.
Yeah.
Right? You guys hate fractions. Let's avoid them as long as we can. The 1/2 goes to where?
To everything.
Everything. What's the 4 to the 1/2 is what? No.
Oh, never mind.
That's the same as the square root of 4, which is 2. A to the what? Negative 2. B to the what?
To the 1.
Somebody always says 1. What is it? I'll give you a moment to stop and think about it. 1/4.
I know that from science.
No, you know it from grade 3 math.
Math, but then science reminds me.
Now, what's not allowed there?
Negative exponent.
Is that okay? Unless I ask for what? Radical form, in which case it would be?
4 root b.
Wait, hold up, please.
I am holding on.
Alright. Okay, thank you very much.
Now, is your 13 right there?
Yeah.
Damn!
Oh, look, my thing says that.
Okay. How many of you, if I wasn't right here doing what I do that makes you realize that what you were going to do was wrong, how many of you right away, as soon as you see this, start putting 2 in and 3 in?
It's the same base though.
Got the super.
Why wouldn't you simplify it first?
I don't know, Amshuman, but I've taught math for 17 years, and every time I say x equals y equals, kids start plugging them in.
Always simplify when you can because it makes life easier.
Simplify, simplify, simplify.
Because that's what life's all about.
So what are we going to do with that and that? Adam, to get what, Lauren? What are you going to do with that and that? Add them together to get what? Y. Now is that easy?
Yeah.
Great. What is x?
Negative
Tell me what the answer is.
12. 12.
Wait, are you all together?
What's the answer to number 11?
12.
Well,
You sure?
Maybe.
yeah.
Leighton, you going to bet your 70 gummy bears?
No, it wouldn't be
Wait,
because
negative 12. No, wait, hold up just a second.
No,
Is this negative?
Wait,
Is it negative with the 2?
and then 4 times 3.
Did you only get 1 today, like?
no. Remember, you can't divide by 2, but because wait, never mind. I lied.
Oh,
What's the question?
That's not how you spell bears.
What's the answer to number 11?
You're supposed to protect it.
It's
It is 12.
Here.
It's 12.
This is a really nice one.
It's 12.
It's 12.
Is it, Leighton?
Yes, it is. Positive 12.
Because you don't know if
It's
the
12.
negative
It
is part
has
of the
to
2.
be.
Negative 12.
It's positive 12 because negative 2 has negative 2, positive 4 has negative 12.
Because it isn't put inside the bracket, so.
But x is
We're
negative 2,
lawyer
so
rolling
negative
ourselves.
2
He's playing with our heads.
negative
It
2
is.
4.
It's negative 12.
No,
I
it's
don't know. It's
positive 12.
Positive 12.
Positive 12.
I feel I could sit here for 8 more minutes and you would still be arguing.
Positive.
You were the biggest proponent of positive 12 2 seconds ago. You were like, it's positive. You turned around, you looked Blake right in the eyes, and you went, it's positive 12. And in your brain, you said, you idiot. Because that's what you looked like when you look back there. You talked to him for 2 seconds, now you're looking at me. It's negative 12. And what do you think? You idiot. So which is it?
Positive 12.
Since x, it's like there's a non-negative number, the whole thing, x, the whole base of x is negative 2 in brackets.
What do you say?
So it's negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 2. I know, but technically,
The number going to be negative.
I know, but it's there. But it says x equals
Brackets there to
so
put
x
it inside.
squared will be negative 2 times negative 2 is positive 4.
Final say, Armand. What is it?
Positive 12.
Final say.
Positive.
You're back to positive 12?
That's the final answer.
All right, it is positive 12. Of course it's positive 12. Now, your arguments, ladies and gentlemen, as Ms. Carlson pointed out, you lawyer-balled yourselves into a 5-minute argument about something that was super simple. What does x squared mean? X times x. What is x? Negative 2. What is x?
Negative.
What is that? Times y, which is what? Now, your homework is to go home and argue about that one.
It's negative 12.
And then you finish page 140. 40. You do those last couple of questions from now, and you do 145. And 146. You do as much of it as you see fit. We are not having a test until a little while, but you will notice that the next thing on my outline and the next thing on your outline is review, which means tests are coming soon. It's like that giant boulder at the beginning of Raiders of the Lost Ark. He's tipped over the idol. He's put the bag of sand on it. He's turned away because he thinks he's got it. But the idol has sunk down and the boulder's been released. If you haven't seen Raiders of the Lost Ark, you're lame.
Isn't that Indiana Jones?
Yes.
No, that's Star Wars. What's the Indiana Jones one?
Dun, 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 dun. But something you should know, both composed by the same man, John Williams.
Died last year? The year before. Something like that. It was a big deal. Are we doing anything significantly important next week?
Everything we do is important.
Yeah, but